let's talk about Harry Hiestand. And when he announced he was retiring, first, the timing was not ideal for us folks who are in the Notre Dame media and just wanted to watch the Super Bowl peacefully. But that aside, it was kind of like, is he retiring because he doesn't want to have a new boss? And now it's like, well, he would have had a new boss in Parker, but I think life would have been the same for him if he would have stayed. But hey, nonetheless, Harry Hiestands retired. Just your reaction on that, like how big of an impact do you think that's going to be?
Oh, it'll be a big one just because he's a hell of a football coach. He's a great offensive line coach, and obviously his name speaks for himself. So, that's, there's no doubt about that. So, I mean, especially in recruiting, guys get excited when they offer him and they come visit and they meet him, they talk football. You just listen to all the 2023 kids that signed with him and the early 24 kids that he's met have loved spending time with him talking football. So no, it's a big loss because obviously Notre Dame, Tommy Rees in particular, went out and brought him back to establish the Notre Dame O-line from what he did during his first reign. So, but at the same time, he was retired for 2 years. So he had a golden opportunity. Tommy Rees brought him back, convinced him to leave retirement, come out, coach football, obviously with the great offensive linemen that they have. Did a heck of a job last year. The first opportunity he had to leave, he took it. I mean, that's really the way I look at it is he went back to retirement. The guy's in his mid-60s. So he's a heck of a football coach. He's going to be missed. But, it sounds like Marcus Freeman made a big push to keep him, try and convince him to stay. And he's like, hey, I came back for Tommy. Tommy wanted me to coach. I did my job. Tommy's gone. Time to move on. So cheers for him. And now let's go get an offensive lineman because there's a lot of 17, 18 scholarship linemen to choose from and start building some depth. So really excited to see who they're going to get because this is a stacked offensive line room.
So 2021, you have Jeff Quinn as the offensive line coach, or it was Harry Hiestand and Chris Watt coaching them at a backyard barbecue. Depends on who you ask. But in all seriousness, Jeff Quinn coached the offensive line in 2021. Obviously Harry in 2022. Now you bring in a new offensive line coach in 2023. Even if it's an internal guy who we'll talk about that next, Tim, how much does that cohesion hurt Notre Dame? Because offensive line coach has to be up there for most important roles in a football program. You're an offensive line guy. How much does this sting for Notre Dame? Just from that aspect, like put aside that Harry Hiestand's one of the GOATs in offensive line coaching, just that aspect of continuity, how much does that hurt for that position specifically?
Oh, it's going to take a bite, because he did work with Parker. Now that Parker's got promoted, obviously he worked with him. He's a tight end coach, so they work side by side. There's drills and videos of them working together in August during the August camp during all the videos. So, I'm sure Harry would have loved working with Parker and whatnot. So, but at the same time, he's only there for 1 year. So it's not like his tentacles are deep. He'd been gone. He's with the Bears in 2 full years of retirement. So he had a coach at Notre Dame since 17. These guys all know him by name, Quentin Nelson and all the other guys that coached, that these guys all know with Zach Martin and all of them. So, it's probably good for Marcus Freeman. Like, hey, he did his 1 year. He established the culture again and whatnot. Boom, just go out and just get another guy that's going to be here with Freeman during probably a long period of time if Freeman stays at Notre Dame. I think that's the biggie, that he is gone after 1 year. So I don't think that's going to hurt Notre Dame.
Do you find it interesting that the day after Hiestand announces retirement, Notre Dame sends out 2 offers, Andrew Sprague and Brandon Baker, I believe his name is. Do you find that interesting? Because I had been told, and I think I talked about this with Goolsby Monday night in our show, I used the word stingy, and he said I wasn't specific. It was some kind of word like, he was very intentional about his offers. Didn't send out too many.
Sure.
But Hiestand didn't want to offer Andrew Sprague and Brandon Baker. And then the first thing, Notre Dame is going to have an offensive line coach or offensive coordinator. What do? Say, we cannot have another day where we have not offered those 2 guys. Did you have any reaction to that, Tim?
Well, number one, I love those guys. I love Sprague. He's one of my favorite guys. He's huge. He looks like Mike McGlinchey. He's massive. So he's definitely one of my favorite offensive linemen. And I think I even posted on an article you did a few months ago, like, hey, any word on Andrew Sprague? And you're like, nothing yet. So he's
they just been to his high school a bunch. That's
yeah,
about it.
exactly. I mean, he's been one of my favorite football players out there, and Baker's a stud. I mean, modern day high school's legit. I mean, the best of the best in the country. So, yeah, Harry was picky. I see some people commenting in the message board, the chat room here, like, oh, Harry only recruited 3-stars. During Harry Hiestand's first reign, 17 out of his 18 commits were blue chips. Were all 4-stars and 5-stars with Quentin Nelson. So he didn't just go out and get a bunch of 3-stars. Only one 3-star started multiple seasons for him, and that was Nick Martin. So he had elite offensive linemen playing for him. So I don't buy that. He was lazy, went and got guys. He was lazy in that he didn't offer 75 linemen. It's
not lazy.
No, he wasn't.
Quinn didn't offer that many. I mean, he offered more than Harry, but not a ton.
No, it's a narrative that's out there, and obviously people believe it and they stick to it. You don't get lazy. They out-recruited Michigan for Charles Jagasaw. They got Sullivan Absher and Pendleton away from Clemson. So from the 2 guys out of the South. So how lazy is he? He was on the road every time he was on the chance to go on the road. He was on there. He was always in your Lucky Charms and your articles. So he stands out there visiting everyone all the time. I mean, his first day after he got hired, the first opportunity he had to go on the road on a Monday, he went and visited Charles in Illinois. So he was out there. That's just a crazy narrative that people like to stick to. But no, I'm excited for him. Enjoy retirement. He's a heck of a football coach. I was bummed because I was obviously excited to see him coach this group, especially the guards. Who in the heck is going to play the guards next year? It's like flip a coin. But really wanted him to go out with a couple All-American tackles under his wing with Alton Fisher. Well, he got Alt. He was All-American this year, so it's not a bad way to leave.
So if Notre Dame does go and get, I guess just go down the hall and get Chris Watt, let's just say,
Right.
I have to believe that they're exploring different options, but I think it would and Notre Dame fans will tell us in the chat that Parker, Gaduli, and Watt would not inspire them. They want to go get, Tom Herman or Urban Meyer as offensive coordinator, and
Yeah, the Eagles offensive line coach.
Yeah, just
Andy Heck.
Get Andy Heck from the Chiefs. Yeah,
he's only been there 15 years. So yeah, let's get
it. I understand that, but I guess in Freeman we trust. And I'm hearing that Chris Watt is being seriously considered for the job. It did look like if it was going to be Ludwig, that Ludwig was going to bring his offensive line coach from Utah, which
good ball coach.
Yeah, and I had been hearing, and several others as well, that the offensive line coach at Utah probably would have been promoted to OC, but it looks like that was not Notre Dame's plan. They wanted to get them both. Yeah. But if it is Watt, do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think it's too soon for Watt to be Notre Dame's offensive line coach? Because it's kind of like, I hope I don't mean for this to be disrespectful, but it's like a 16-year-old just getting his driver's permit, or his driver's license in a Ferrari. Like seriously. What do you think about this, Tim?
The first, he hired O'Leary. That was, when I've heard this Watt thing, I was like, well, you know what? His first hire at Notre Dame was O'Leary, who was a graduate, who was a GA.
Had less experience, really. Less than president.
Exactly. Yeah. Freeman loved working with him, and he interviews him, and he's like, I'm going to get, I want this guy to be my safeties coach. He gets hired as head coach, and he keeps O'Leary. He, his buddy Mickens from high school and whatnot. So, he keeps those guys that are close to him. And Watt is interesting because I'm the same thing. Like, oh man, there's some great offensive line coaches out there. A couple guys that he's obviously worked with that could come here at Notre Dame and have a great career and whatnot. But then you're like, all right, well, Chris Watt was a heck of an offensive lineman for Notre Dame. Obviously coaches coached with Harry Hiestand, was, a GA at Notre Dame, with obviously Quinn, and still had those ties with Harry, was at Tulane last year, got let go, comes right back to Notre Dame. Do you hire the Notre Dame guy who's been trained, played, 4 years for Harry, knows that Notre Dame offensive line? That's man, if he doesn't, it's like, it's interesting because, O-line guys, I'm like, go find Joe Moore. Go find that little crusty guy. That's what Lou Holtz did in '88. Went and found the old, angry man to go coach up his guys. That's kind of what Harry did for Notre Dame all these years. So is Chris going to be that guy? Is he going to be that next wave of Joe Moore, Harry Hiestand, disciple, so to speak? So if he picks him, I'm excited as heck because it's going back to your point, Mike. He's going to work his tail off.
Yeah,
He's going to work his tail off.
I want to clear something up. Like I think a lot of just in seeing the message board fodder, and this will be the last topic for this, is Freeman is just kind of just like what we saw in Brian Kelly, just hiring your buddies. I think it's different than that. Like I think Brian Kelly made the comfortable hires, but I think Freeman, it's not about comfortable. It's about the chemistry.
It is. It is.
I really, especially for the young coach, I don't think he wants to, step out too much. And whether that's a good idea or not, I think we'll find out this season. I do. Because when I've talked to people, they think, like, we're talking good sources here. They think that this is the big year for Notre Dame. Now, when talking to these people, this is before all these coaching moves. Now, how much, is there a fall off, an offensive coordinator? I mean, people in the building respect the heck out of Jared Parker. So, I mean, all that remains to be seen. I just can't poo-poo too much when I haven't seen the guy call a game at Notre Dame, Jared Parker.
I agree.
So, yeah, I think it's chemistry over comfort. I don't know. Maybe I'm naive on that. What do you think, Tim?
Well, that goes back to Barry Alvarez when he got hired. The same thing with Lou Holtz.
That's funny. That's funny. I'm excited for that chemistry and the beef over Brady. That's what I'm saying. Like we will see.
No, we'll find out. I mean, that's why you play the games. But yeah, chemistry. That was a big Brian Kelly thing with hiring Clark Lee. Mike Elko was one of the best D coordinators in the country at Wake Forest. Everyone knew Mike Elko, and Clark Lee is a guy who, just been a ball coach. And he just said, you know what? They had that 2017 after the horrendous 2016, the meltdown, the chemistry, the backstabbing that went on that football team. Kelly's like, I don't want to do it again. And he interviewed dudes and he stuck with Clark Lee. He's like, I'm going to give you a shot. And now Clark Lee's a head football coach in the SEC. So, same thing with Tommy Rees. Tommy Rees is now an offensive coordinator in the
Mike
SEC.
Elko's doing fine.
Mike Elko is doing fine, the Duke head coach. So, yeah, you know what? Sometimes, especially a young coach, Marcus Freeman's never done this before. So he's probably like, man, I just lost 4 games. I'm going to rally a bunch of dudes around me that I know, that I trust, and we're going to do this thing my way. We're going to go crazy. We're going to recruit our tails off. I want a bunch of guys are going to work 18-hour days, get a little bit of sleep, drink some coffee, keep working. And maybe that's what's going to happen with Notre Dame in a few years.